protests today and the five Trump terrorists who struck, at least five Trump terrorists who struck No King's Day protests, and how no one's reporting this, which makes them terrorist supporters, terrorist enablers, makes most media outlets protecting these terrorists. Because it's not a hard pattern to see that when, first of all, it's not a hard pattern to see amongst the news agencies when they do report on the Minnesota Trump terrorist. The Minnesota Trump terrorist who did kill a congresswoman and her husband and tried to kill another congressman and his wife and had 70 other people on his list to kill and No King's protests flyers for targets. That terrorist has not been called a terrorist by these media types yet. And the media types who refuse to call him a terrorist are protecting terrorists and therefore themselves supporting terrorism. I think we have laws against supporting terrorism that I think we should start aggressively applying to these media agencies who are protecting this terrorist by not calling him a terrorist. It's pretty simple math. He's a terrorist. They're not calling him a terrorist because they're protecting him, so therefore they're terrorists. The cops and the Timu KGB, the FBI, who also helped him, terrorists. His Red Lion security group, terrorists. They should be held and interrogated as a terrorist cell. Meanwhile, other terrorists struck throughout that day. And because they're not even reporting on the Minnesota killer as a terrorist, so they're not looking at it as a wave of terrorist actions, even though that's exactly what it was. It was a bunch of coordinated terrorists attacking No King's Day protests because they're terrorists and because they were either inspired by each other or they had a plan to do this, in which case it shouldn't be that hard to track down the network of terrorists that enabled these Trump boutonniere terrorists. So at about a minute and a half, YouTube likes to put somebody in my live. They always go away. They never comment or stick around for more than 10 seconds. It makes me wonder, is it a random person or is it the first of their Trump boutonniere terrorists? Because generally the people who at least seek out my live or find my live somehow, or YouTube chooses to show my live to, are Trump boutonniere terrorists themselves. They will leave comments in support of the Trump boutonniere terrorist, the MAGA terrorists, such as the one who struck in Minnesota, the one who struck in Salt Lake City, the one who struck in Phoenix, the one who struck in Nashville, and the one who struck in an undetermined city. I need to look up where that city is. In fact, I should ask people to comment first. If you know the city where the lady was trying to pull her gun on the No Kings protesters, please let me know in comments. Do you know the city where the lady was trying to pull her gun on No Kings protesters and they had to tackle her to the ground? Please let me know in comments. It's a lady who had a gun. She was trying to pull it on the No Kings protesters. Not the man in the red shirt in Phoenix who pulled his gun on the No Kings protesters. Not the man who shot somebody in Salt Lake City at the No Kings Day protest. He's a Trump terrorist. Not those Trump terrorists, but the Trump terrorist that Adam Mockler did a video about, almost pulling her gun out at a No King's Day protest in unknown city. Because I scanned through his video after watching it and tried to see the parts where he might mention the city, and he just failed to mention the city, or else I didn't see that part. But we know Minnesota, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, and Nashville, and then one other city, at least, because Adam Mockler didn't mention the Nashville Trump terrorist. He mentioned 2 or 3 other Trump terrorists who struck that day, but he didn't mention the Nashville Trump terrorist. So I assume even if we know about 1 or 2 of these, there's a dozen more, 50 more, 100 more that we don't know about. And of course, the media is not talking about them. So I wanted to do my part to talk about it, even though my talking about it for now 4 minutes on a YouTube Live has been viewed by all of 2 people so far. I mean, I'll post this live. It'll be available for other people to see in the future. But right now, 2 people have seen it. It's early in the morning. It's not that surprising. But unfortunately, YouTube seems to only select Trump boutonnieres. When I had up to 120 people in here, only one of them would speak out against Trump, which does not seem to be like a ratio that reflects the population. But speaking of the No King's Day protest, with 10 million people showing up at the No King's Day protest, and only about, or maybe 15 million people in America showing up at the No King's Day protest, and only about 500 showing up at Trump's birthday parade, is that enough for a recount? Is that imagery enough to get people to seriously look into the last election and whether or not they rigged it and stole it? Because they don't have the numbers, and numbers don't lie. Saw protesters pushing the ICE vans back into their bunker in New York City. That was encouraging. saw YouTube is suppressing streamers again. When people are streaming the LA protests, it will only be right-wing restreamers restreaming it to gleefully lick boots. And for their chat members, I saw somebody with 29,000 people watching his streams, but he was only restreaming other people's content that you can't find the original content to support the original people who are there on the ground. You can only find somebody in their bedroom restreaming it to, again, gleefully lick boots. So terrorist cells of 29,000 people that YouTube promotes and allows and hasn't had any consequences for. Are you a terrorist? The person who just came in, are you a MAGA terrorist? Are you Trump Putineer? Are you a Trump supporter? There. So they went away because they're probably a terrorist. We need a chant song. Oh, I was sad for the attendees. I mean, they're Trump Putineers if they're supporting Trump. Or maybe they were just literally there to support the military. Maybe that's why it was so sad. It's because people that really were showing up just to support the military looked really sad. And they should be sad because they're effectively supporting Trump too, which you should never do. And the people who marched, they're saying that it was a protest, the way they marched sloppily, that their sloppy marching was a protest of Trump. A protest of Trump would be not showing up. A protest of Trump would be leaving the parade route. You want to march that sloppily, just march off to the side. Don't march in front of Trump. Protest him. Actually protest him if you want to protest him. I think maybe they're just bad marchers, and people are trying to cover that up for the fact that we don't have a very well-trained military, and Trump's trying to show off, like, our military isn't very well-trained. Hey, is anybody trying to invade because our military is not very well-trained? I think we need to get a step ahead of him on that. Since he's a traitor, he wants Russia to invade us, of course. We should just ask Canada and Mexico to take half of us each. Be like, look, we've shown with this fascist leader we can't be trusted with the country. Canada, Mexico, can you annex half of America each and facilitate land back to indigenous people? Anyway, a little off topic here, although that's the same topic. Like, we don't deserve this country if we're not going to protect it from Trump. Trump is the danger. We don't have military threats. Trump is the danger. But he wants to show off our military being ramshackle. He wants to show off how sad the people who support the military are, because it was pathetic. I mean, it was sad. It was depressing. And I feel sorry for them. I feel sorry for the people in the military. I feel sorry for the people watching the parade. Even the Trump Putineers, I have some sympathy for them. It doesn't make me a Trump Putineer sympathizer, because that's worse than being a Nazi sympathizer, because we've had 80 years to learn what's wrong with them. But people are still Trump Putineer sympathizers. And the media are some of the worst. When they're not calling this terrorist, this Minnesota terrorist, a terrorist, when they're not pointing out that with 15 million people showing up for the No Kings protests and nobody showing up at Trump's parade, we need a recount. We need to investigate that election. We need to round up the people who are responsible for messing it up. So, Trump Putineer terrorists, they're all terrorists. Even the lowest level supporters who only leave comments, who only support in comments, are terrorists. And they should be treated as such. They should lose their citizenship. They should lose their houses. Their houses should go to immigrants. And they should be deported to Siberia. I think this is just common sense baseline. Let's get started with what do we do to respond to and clean up the Trumpism in America. And I kind of want to run for governor to do it. I kind of want to make videos about that. I think I've covered all the content here. I got absolutely no inspiration or feedback. I got one feedback from one anti-Trumper who didn't really have that much to say in the previous live. But maybe early in the morning is not the time to catch the anti-Trump sentiment. Thanks for watching, though. We've got to stop these Trumpers, and we will, one way or another. But thanks for watching this in the future and commenting on this and my other content. See you soon.